I never thought betrayal would taste this bitter. Standing in our kitchen, watching Jack work on his coffee maker like he did every morning, I felt my heart race with guilt. 25 years of marriage, and here I was, about to shatter everything we'd built together. The morning light filtered through our kitchen window, casting shadows across Jack's weathered face. His hands, calloused from years of mechanical work, moved with practiced precision. I used to love those hands. "Jack," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "We need to talk." He didn't look up, just grunted in acknowledgement as he cleaned the coffee filter. How many mornings had we shared like this? Thousands, probably. But this one would be different. "I've been seeing someone," I said, the words falling like stones in still water. The coffee maker stopped gurgling. Jack's hands froze mid-motion. "It's Marcus," I continued, forcing myself to maintain my composure. "My boss." The silence that followed was deafening. I watched as Jack slowly put down the coffee filter, his movements deliberate and controlled. When he finally turned to face me, his eyes were unreadable. "How long?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. 6 months. The truth felt ugly in my mouth. Jack nodded slowly, as if processing a complicated mechanical problem. "And you're telling me now because?" "Because Marcus thinks it's time," I replied, hating how clinical I sounded. "Marcus thinks," Jack repeated, a bitter smile playing at his lips. I straightened my designer blazer, a recent gift from Marcus. "He's right, Jack. We need to be honest about this." "Honest," he echoed, the word dripping with sarcasm. "I want more from life," I said, reciting the words I'd rehearsed countless times. "More than what? More than 25 years? More than a family? More than a husband who worked his ass off so you could go to law school?" His voice was rising now, anger finally breaking through his calm facade. "It's not about you," I insisted, though we both knew that was a lie. "Then what is it about, Sarah? Please, enlighten me." I looked around our modest kitchen, at the worn countertops and dated appliances. Everything here screamed middle class, comfortable but ordinary. Marcus's penthouse flashed through my mind, all chrome and glass, overlooking the city. "I've changed," I said finally. "No," Jack replied, his voice hard. "You haven't changed. You've just shown who you really are." The words stung more than I expected. "That's not fair." "Fair?" Jack laughed, a harsh sound I'd never heard from him before. "You want to talk about fair?" He stepped closer, and for the first time in our marriage, I felt afraid of him. Not because he'd hurt me, Jack would never, but because of the raw pain in his eyes. "I gave you everything I had," he said quietly. "Everything." "I know," I whispered. "No, you don't know," he cut me off. "You think you do, but you don't." Tea. He turned away, bracing himself against the counter. "Does Marcus make you happy?" he asked suddenly. The question caught me off guard. "Yes," I answered, though something inside me wavered. "Good," Jack said, his voice flat. "Because happiness seems to be all you care about these days." He pushed away from the counter and headed for the door. "Where are you going?" I called after him. "To my workshop," he replied without turning around. "At least there, things make sense." The door closed behind him with a quiet click. No slam, no drama. Just like Jack, controlled even in his pain. I stood alone in our kitchen, surrounded by the life we'd built together. The coffee maker beeped, signaling it was done. The mundane sound nearly broke me. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a message from Marcus. How did he take it? I stared at the screen, my vision blurring. How did he take it? Like a man whose world just collapsed, but was too proud to let it show. Fine, I typed back. He's processing. Marcus's response was immediate, good. I'll have my lawyers draw up the papers. So efficient, so clinical. Just like everything about Marcus. I walked to our bedroom, soon to be just Jack's, and began packing a bag. My expensive clothes looked out of place next to Jack's worn jeans and work shirts. Had they always seemed so incongruous? Or was I just noticing it now? A photo on the dresser caught my eye. Our wedding day, 25 years ago. We looked so young, so happy. Jack in his rented tux, me in my mother's dress. We had nothing then but dreams and each other. Now I had everything: money, status, success. Everything except the look of pure joy on that young bride's face. I put the photo face down. Couldn't bear to see it anymore. My hands shook as I folded my clothes. Designer labels that cost more than Jack's monthly mortgage payment. Each piece a symbol of how far I'd come. Or how far I'd fallen, depending on your perspective. The sound of a car engine starting drew me to the window. Jack's truck, pulling out of the driveway. Heading to his workshop, his sanctuary. I watched until he disappeared around the corner. My phone buzzed again. Marcus, dinner tonight? Celebrate your freedom? I stared at the message, feeling suddenly nauseous. Freedom. Was that what this was? It felt more like chains of my own making. But I'd made my choice. Yes, I replied. Dinner sounds perfect. I finished packing, my entire life fitting into 2 expensive suitcases. 25 years reduced to designer clothes and toiletries. As I walked through our house one last time, memories assaulted me at every turn. The kitchen where Jack taught Emma to bake. The living room where Ryan took his first steps. The back porch where we spent countless summer evenings. All of it slipping away, like water through my fingers. I left my key on the kitchen counter. Next to the coffee maker Jack had finally fixed. The irony wasn't lost on me. He could fix anything except us. My heels clicked on the driveway as I walked to my car. The sound seemed too loud in the quiet neighborhood. Mrs. Johnson next door was watering her flowers. She turned away when she saw me. News travels fast in small towns. I started my car, a luxury SUV Marcus had helped me choose. The engine purred, nothing like Jack's rattling truck. As I pulled away from the house, I caught a glimpse of myself in the rearview mirror. I looked exactly like what I was, a successful lawyer in expensive clothes. But something in my eyes seemed different. Harder maybe. Or just more honest about who I'd become. I headed toward Marcus's penthouse, toward my new life. The GPS guided me smoothly, no wrong turns allowed. Everything planned, everything perfect. Just like Marcus liked it. Just like I thought I wanted. But as the house disappeared in my rearview mirror, a small voice in my head whispered, "What have you done, Sarah? What have you done?" I pushed the thought away. No room for doubt now. The die was cast, the choice made. Marcus was waiting for me. My new life was waiting for me. So why did it feel like I was driving away from everything real? I turned up the radio, drowning out my thoughts. The familiar streets of our small town gave way to the highway. Each mile taking me further from the life I'd known. Closer to the life I'd chosen. My phone buzzed again. Emma this time. I let it go to voicemail. Couldn't face my daughter right now. Couldn't explain why I was leaving her father. Why I was choosing Marcus over everything we had. The city skyline appeared on the horizon. Glass and steel reaching toward the sky. Marcus's world. My world now too. I thought of Jack in his workshop. Surrounded by tools and engines. Things he could understand. Things he could fix. But some things can't be fixed. Some choices can't be undone. Some betrayals leave scars that never heal. I pulled into the parking garage of Marcus's building. The security guard nodded, already knowing my car. Already knowing me as Marcus's woman. The elevator rode smoothly to the penthouse. No creaks, no rattles. Nothing like our old house. Marcus was waiting when the doors opened. Tall, polished, perfect. "Welcome home," he said, pulling me into a kiss. I let myself melt into him. This was what I wanted. This was my choice. So why did his kiss taste like ashes? Why did his embrace feel like chains? "How did it really go?" he asked, leading me inside. "As well as could be expected," I replied. "He'll get over it," Marcus said dismissively. I looked around the penthouse. All chrome and glass, just like Marcus. Beautiful but cold. "Yes," I agreed. "I suppose he will." But deep down, I knew better. Jack Wilson wasn't the type to just get over things. He was the type to endure. To rebuild. To survive. And somehow, that thought scared me more than any tea. Else. I didn't expect Marcus to show his true colors so soon. It started with a visit to Jack's workshop. "I'll handle this," Marcus had said, straightening his Italian silk tie. I should have stopped him. Should have known better. But I was still living in my fantasy world. Where Marcus was the knight in shining armor. And Jack was the past I needed to leave behind. I watched from my office window as Marcus drove away in his Mercedes. Heading to the small garage Jack had built from nothing. My phone felt heavy in my hand. I should warn Jack. Should tell him Marcus was coming. But I didn't. Pride, maybe. Or cowardice. An hour later, Marcus returned. His perfect composure slightly ruffled. "It's handled," he said, dropping a stack of papers on my desk. Divorce papers, restraining orders, financial freezes. All designed to break Jack. "Was this necessary?" I asked, fingering the papers. "Of course," Marcus smiled. "We need to protect ourselves." Ourselves. When had I become part of Marcus's ourselves? The next day, everything changed. Marcus came to work with bruises. A split lip. Broken ribs. Jack's handiwork. He attacked me, Marcus spat, pacing my office. "What did you expect?" I asked. "You went to his workshop." "He's just a mechanic," Marcus sneered. Those words hit me harder than I expected. Just a mechanic. The man who had supported me through law school. Who had raised our children while I built my career. Who had loved me unconditionally for 25 years. Just a mechanic. "Sarah," Marcus's voice cut through my thoughts. "You're fired." I blinked, sure I'd misheard. "What?" "You're a liability now," he said coolly. "I can't have you here." "But, we're together," I stammered. Marcus laughed. A cold, corporate laugh. "Did you really think this was about love?" The floor seemed to tilt beneath my feet. "Then what was it about?" "Power," he said simply. "Control. The thrill of taking another man's wife. I felt sick. You used me. We used each other, he corrected. You wanted out of your small-town life. I loved you, I whispered. Another laugh. No, Sarah. You loved what I represented. He walked to the door. Security will escort you out. Just like that, my world imploded. Again. But this time, I had no home to go back to. No Jack to catch me when I fell. I sat in my car in the corporate parking lot. Surrounded by luxury I could no longer afford. My phone buzzed. Emma. How could you, Mom? My daughter's voice broke my heart. Emma, please. No, she cut me off. Dad told us everything. It's complicated, I tried. No, it's not, she said. You chose Marcus over us. He fired me, I whispered. Silence. Then a bitter laugh. So much like her father's. Karma's a bitch, isn't it? The line went dead. I tried Ryan next. Straight to voicemail. My children wanted nothing to do with me. I couldn't blame them. The sun was setting. I drove back to our small town. Past Jack's workshop. The lights were on. I could see him working. Same as always. Steady, reliable Jack. I pulled over, watching him through the windows. He looked different somehow. Stronger maybe. Or just less broken than I expected. My phone buzzed again. The bank this time. All accounts frozen. Credit cards canceled. Marcus's parting gift. I laughed until I cried. Then cried until I couldn't anymore. Night fell. I was still in my car. Watching Jack's workshop. Watching the life I'd thrown away. Finally, I got out. My heels clicked on the concrete. The sound echoing in the quiet street. Jack looked up as I entered. His eyes hard. Unforgiving. What do you want, Sarah? My name sounded wrong on his lips. Like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. He fired me, I said. And I have nowhere else to go. Jack turned back to his work. That sounds like a you problem. My own words thrown back at me. Jack, please. No, he cut me off. You made your choice. I made a mistake. You made several, he corrected. His hands never stopped working. Steady, sure movements. Fixing what was broken. But he couldn't fix us. Wouldn't fix us. I'm sorry, I whispered. So am I, he replied. But he didn't look at me. Didn't offer comfort. Didn't offer hope. I stood there, in my expensive clothes. In my expensive shoes. With my expensive education. All of it worthless now. Goodbye, Sarah, Jack said quietly. Still not looking at me. I turned and walked away. Each step harder than the last. My heels clicking on the concrete. The sound following me like judgment. I got back in my car. Started the engine. But I had nowhere to go. No home. No job. No family. Just the consequences of my choices. Following me like shadows. Darker with each passing moment. I drove to my sister Emily's house. The last refuge of the desperate. She opened the door. Took one look at me. And sighed. How long? She asked. I don't know, I admitted. She stepped aside. Let me in. But her eyes were cold. Judging. You really screwed up this time, Sarah. I nodded. What else could I say? The guest room was small. Nothing like Marcus's penthouse. Nothing like the home I'd shared with Jack. I sat on the bed. Still in my designer clothes. Still wearing my mask of success. But inside, I was crumbling. My phone buzzed one last time. A text from Marcus. Don't try to contact me again. I stared at the words. Until they blurred. Until they burned. Until they became just another reminder. Of what I'd lost. Of what I'd thrown away. Of who I'd become. Night fell outside Emily's guest room window. Somewhere across town, Jack was probably still working. Fixing engines. Fixing cars. Fixing everything except us. And I sat alone. In borrowed space. With borrowed time. Wondering how I'd managed to break everything that mattered. Days at Emily's house turned into weeks. Each morning, I woke up to the same reality. No job. No home. No family. My designer clothes hung in the tiny closet. Mocking reminders of my former life. Emily's patience wore thinner each day. Have you started looking for work? She'd ask. Over and over. Like a broken record. I had. But my reputation was shot. Marcus had made sure of that. No law firm in the city would touch me. His influence reached far and wide. Like poison in water. I tried calling Emma again. And again. And again. Always straight to voicemail. Ryan was the same. My children had chosen their side. Their father's side. I couldn't blame them. One morning, I drove past our old house. Jack's truck was gone. But there was something different. A classic Mustang in the driveway. Being restored piece by piece. Just like Jack. Rebuilding. Moving forward. While I was stuck. In my sister's guest room. In my past mistakes. In my own personal hell. The local grocery store was my breaking point. Mrs. Johnson from next door saw me. Turned her cart around. Walked the other way. I abandoned my shopping. Ran to my car. Cried until I couldn't breathe. My phone rang. Unknown number. Mrs. Wilson, a voice asked. I hadn't heard that name in weeks. Yes. This is Smithville Law Office. We have an opening. My heart jumped. Then fell. Smithville. Population 3,000. 2 hours from anywhere important. It's entry level, the voice continued. Entry level. After 20 years of practice. When can you start? I looked at myself in the rearview mirror. Designer clothes. Perfectly styled hair. Empty eyes. Tomorrow, I said. What choice did I have? Emily was relieved to see me go. Packed my bags herself. Maybe this will be good for you, she said. Not believing it. Neither did I. The apartment in Smithville was tiny. 1 bedroom. Kitchenette. View of a brick wall. My designer furniture wouldn't fit. Not that I had it anymore. Marcus had kept everything. Just like he'd kept my dignity. My pride. My self-respect. The law office was small. Family law. Divorces. Child custody. Bitter irony. My new boss was kind. In a pitying way. "We've all heard about you," she said. Of course they had. Small towns talk. Stories travel. My story had become a cautionary tale. The first case they gave me was a divorce. Young couple. She'd cheated. He was devastated. I sat across from them, watching their pain, seeing Jack in the husband's eyes, seeing myself in the wife's desperation. "Are you sure about this?" I asked her. She hesitated, looking at her husband, seeing what she was losing. "No," she whispered. They left holding hands. I cried at my desk. For them. For Jack. For me. Weeks turned into months. My designer clothes got packed away, replaced by simple suits, more appropriate for small-town law. My hands grew calloused from carrying files. Not soft like before. More like Jack's hands. Working hands. I heard about him sometimes. His business was growing. 2 new locations. Success built on honest work. Unlike my success. Built on ambition and betrayal. Emma graduated law school. I wasn't invited to the ceremony. Saw the pictures on Facebook. She looked beautiful. Standing next to Jack. Both smiling. Both happy. Without me. Ryan partnered with his father. Modernizing the business. I drove past sometimes. Saw them working together. Father and son. The way it should be. One day, I heard about Marcus. Corporate scandal. Fraud charges. His empire crumbling. I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No revenge. Just emptiness. My new life settled into routine. Small cases. Small victories. Small defeats. Everything small. Everything simple. Everything real. I saw Jack at the grocery store once. He looked good. Happy. Free. He nodded politely. Walked past. Like I was nobody. Maybe I was. The woman he'd loved was gone. Replaced by this shadow. This ghost. This cautionary tale. My office window faced Main Street. I watched life go by. Simple people. Simple lives. The kind of life I'd had. The kind of life I'd thrown away. For what? Power? Status? A man who saw me as a trophy? Nights were the hardest. Alone in my tiny apartment. Remembering. The workshop. The kitchen. The life we'd built. The love we'd shared. All gone now. Like smoke in the wind. But sometimes. In the quiet moments. Between cases and regrets. I felt something new. Something real. Peace maybe. Or acceptance. Of who I was. Of what I'd done. Of where I'd ended up. Not the ending I'd planned. Not the life I'd dreamed of. But maybe. Just maybe. The life I deserved. The life I needed. To remember who I really was. Who I could be. If I just. Stopped running. Stopped pretending. Stopped trying to be more. Than what I already was. A small-town lawyer. In a small-town office. Living a small-town life. And finally. Finally. Understanding that sometimes small is enough. End.